So, hi everyone. Yes, I'm Ian Mile. I work for a company called Container Solutions, and my day job is I work there as a partner, and we help companies deal with technological change, mostly in the cloud space, but also the DevOps space, cloud native, all that stuff. But I'm not here to talk about that today. So today I'm going to weave together several interests of mine into one talk, and I'm going to try and do that in 20-ish minutes. Okay. So I'm going to mix together the study of history. Who knows who that is? Hands up if you know who that is. Oh, come on, there must be more of you. 3 people, 4 people. I am getting old. Okay, 5 people. Okay, that's 6. Do I hear 7? This is Douglas Adams, who was a great visionary as well as a great humorous writer. And so yes, study of history, Douglas Adams, an LLM task I set myself, a generative AI task I set myself at Christmas last year. I'm also going to talk about the history of chess and the TV program The Prisoner. Now, I think there are going to be less than 7 hands. Who remembers The Prisoner? 1, 2. Oh, more. Okay. So in honor of the TV show, I've got the jacket. This is genuine merch from Port Miriam. But yeah, The Prisoner will come up too. See if you can spot it. Okay. So this is a quote from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I'm sure more of you have heard of. It was written in 1979, and it describes how the central character, Arthur Dent, is stuck on a spaceship. He's basically been kidnapped or taken away from Earth just before it was exploded to make way for a hyperspace bypass. And the first thing he wants to do, obviously, is get a nice cup of tea. And he asks the machine for a cup of tea, and it's horrible. It's terrible. So, oops. Oh, okay. Maybe that's. Oh, I'll come back to that at the end. Then we'll see. Come back to that at the end. So this is me when I was young and handsome before the accident. I did a history degree 1994 to 1997, and that involved basically it was a week's work per essay. So I would get given a piece of paper with a question on. And a series of texts that I was supposed to go and read. And then it would take a week, and I'd come back and read it out and get critiqued by the tutor. Now, I often thought about, could this work be computerized? And when ChatGPT 3 came out, which was in 2022, I think, it's the one that I don't know if do people remember the ChatGPT version before 3.5, which completed your text. So I played with that, and it was really poor at writing essays. So I thought, when ChatGPT 3 came out and private LLMs came out, I thought, what can I do with this? How can I use LLMs to help me write an essay now? What will the difference be? So I set myself a challenge, which was to try and write a high-quality essay using LLMs, private LLMs, to help me research the subject in under 2 days. So not to write it for me, but to help me research it. And I had 2 rules. One was I couldn't look at my original essay from 1996, and I couldn't read the texts that I was set to read for this essay. Okay, so this was the question, and you can see the very old kind of print style. That's 1996 print. It could even, is it thermal? I don't know. It's probably inkjet at the very least. How far was new liberalism a departure from the old? Okay, so in 1996, this is the piece of paper I got from my tutor. Those are my scribbled notes during the tutorial, which I can't read now. And yeah, you had 1 week. No lectures, that was a bonus, I have to tell you. 12 books on the list that I basically had to read, or was supposed to read. 6 articles to read, and 2,100 words written. So that was the task in 1996. Now, in Christmas 2023, which is when I set myself this task, the process looked quite different. So firstly, my first task was then and now to get hold of the texts, to have a look at them. And back in 1996, I used to have to trudge around, usually in the winter, around all the different libraries, trying to get texts that other people had hopefully not taken out before me. And you can see from the page, you know, some of them, the ones with the dashes against, I managed to get hold of, the other ones not. Well, this time, it took me less than an hour, well less than an hour actually, to source the texts from the internet and then turn them into plain text. And already I was well ahead of myself in 1996. So that would have been like half a day of traipsing around different libraries. And then I would have had to, well, if I wanted to get them all in plain text, which is what I've got here on my laptop, it would have taken me, you know, far too long. Already I'm ahead because I can grep. So no AI involved. I can just, if you don't know what grep is, it's a tool for allowing you to very quickly search large amounts of text. So if I wanted to search for, you know, Lloyd George across all these texts, all mentions of him, then I could do that. So that was already one big benefit. So next thing I did in 23 was get ChatGPT to write me an essay plan. And it did a pretty good job of that. All the inputs and outputs I've kept in a GitHub repo there if you're interested in seeing what the differences were. I used Llama at home. I used RAG, which I'll talk about in a moment, what that is. And I used ChatGPT and a couple of others as well. Since this, just before this conference, I have updated it to include 4.0 and 0.1 models as well, with exactly the same questions. So we can already see the development. I'll talk a bit about that coming up. Okay, so the next technique I used at home was a technique called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. If you don't know what that is, it's basically takes all those texts that I've got and stores them in what's called a vector database. Basically, it turns it into a series of numbers. Again, this is nothing to do with LLMs. This is just the first part. It stores that text data. You ask it a question. It finds the text references most closest in meaning to that question based on this vector numberization of the text, and then shoves that text or surrounding text into your prompt. So at that point, it goes into the LLM and gives you an answer. So here I've got a question: what relationship do beverage and web have with New Liberalism? And this is done at home. You can see it takes nearly 3 minutes, and then it gives you the source documents. So this was invaluable for writing a decent essay because you need to have proper sources. So that was one technique I used. And then another one I tried to use, which was really not very successful at home, was Agent Cruise. So there's this idea that you have separate LLM threads talking to each other as though they are a group of people, a crew of workers for you. And so I wrote a bit of a Python script to pretend that it was a tutor talking to a student, and I hoped that would generate better and better insights. But it didn't. And here's an example. It ends up telling me that to understand 19th century capitalism, I need to understand the rebuilding of Germany after World War II. And history doesn't really work like that. So that was disappointing. But I think, to skip to the end, I think this is where the next big leap, this area is where the next big leap is going to come from. Okay, so what did I find? I found that the toil all the toil was significantly reduced. So I could get very quickly to the heart of the subject. I also didn't have to navigate all the text and figure out what everyone was arguing about, which is a lot of the work you have to do when you're studying. Just chatting to the AI would give me the key themes and topics I would have to cover, and that was invaluable. That saved me a lot of time, and it got me to a certain point, but it was not actually getting me to a point where I was happy with what I'd written. So I got to the point where I was saying to myself, I really want to go and read the texts at this point. I can't just rely on getting fragments of text through greps and RAG. I have to actually go and read the text. And I set myself the rule that I couldn't. So I went ahead and wrote the essay. It's available online. And then I finished the essay. It was okay. It was probably a 2-2, I think. Not a great essay. Maybe a third even. I don't know. I'd have to ask. I sent it to my old tutor, and he said it was definitely worse than the essay you gave me 20 years ago. And yeah, he was basically it was not. I could only get to a certain point. So good news for humanity, right? We still need to think, we still need to study, we still need to discuss with each other and learn. But as I say, as a speed learning tool, it's unparalleled. So this is The Prisoner reference, by the way. So Speed Learn was an episode of The Prisoner back in 1960 where everyone would watch the screen, the TV screen, for a minute, and they would suddenly be able to learn new language. But the evil overlords of the village were programming you in those 60 seconds. So check out The Prisoner if you've never seen it. It's a great old TV show from the 60s. Did it again the other day, and it got noticeably better just in the 10 months since Christmas. Again, all the stuff is online in that Git repo under my name. No one has put a RAG equivalent on. Well, sorry, not no one. As far as I know, OpenAI doesn't allow you. ChatGPT doesn't have this concept of RAG in a user-accessible way. I'd love to be able to upload texts and have it do a vector database lookup. You can upload texts, but it can't tell you where the source of its thinking is coming from. So really wouldn't be that hard to build, but someone's going to do it soon, I think. So that was. Oh yeah, and the other day I used Claude or Anthropic AI and asked it to just write an essay this morning, in fact, and it gave me a much noticeably better one than I saw before. I don't know if you've seen, but Terence Tao, the famous mathematician, is saying sort of similar things, that it was useless last year and now it's slightly less useless. His words are, what was it? Could be significant use in research level tasks. So even mathematicians are starting to say that it could help them, and I can definitely say it should help in humanities studies. So I wrote this up, and then it got discussed on HackerNews. People were pretty appalled. Some people were pretty appalled at what I was doing, thought it was missing the point of studying history. But my view is, students are going to use it anyway. I got in touch with my tutor, my old tutor, as I said, and he said his fellow faculty members were completely blind to the future. They were saying, well, it can't write a good essay, so it's not anything we need to think about. And he was saying that some of his students are already using this to save themselves time. So just quickly, I want to, in the remaining 8 minutes, I want to make a historical analogy. So it's very easy, and I'm very tempted as a human being to dismiss whether it could ever actually get better than us. But we have lots of historical precedent for this. And one is an interest of mine, which is chess. And I've divided chess into 5 sort of arbitrary phases, so semi-arbitrary. So initially there's fakery. Does anyone recognize this? Yeah, the mechanical Turk. So this was a machine that was taken around Europe, or a supposed machine that was taken around Europe, a massive like box that a person could fit in, and it would apparently mechanically play chess. And it was exhibited for 85 years. It had all this clockwork in the front that was shown to the audience, and then there was a trick. Basically, it was a trick, right? So someone sat in there, but they moved around as they were demonstrating, showing the stuff underneath. And I don't know how people were amazed by it and tried to figure out how it worked. But basically, no one really told on the guy who built it. So yeah, fakery is the first thing. So I'm thinking of, people sitting in warehouses in far off lands, clicking things on captures. That's kind of like fake AI, isn't it? So question for the audience now: when was the first real chess computer built, do you think? Have a guess. 1950? Any higher or lower? 1980-ish, okay. Any more? That's closer. Sorry? No, it's not a trick question. It is kind of a trick question, right? So this was the first ever chess-playing machine, actual machine that played chess. Built by a Spanish chap called Quevedo, and it doesn't play a full game of chess, to be fair, so it's a bit of a trick question. It played just a rook and king endgame, but it can beat you every time at that. Could identify illegal moves and checkmate opponent. That was made in 1912, which I think is quite an amazing achievement. There's a picture of it. Yeah, 1912. So that's pretty amazing. So then that's kind of the mechanical phase. Then you've got computerization. So chess computers existed from the 50s, as we understand them today, and could play complete games. But it really started making inroads in the 1980s. And at this time, grandmasters would the best players in the world would say they'll never beat us. In fact, Garry Kasparov in 1989 said, ridiculous, a machine will always remain a machine. That is to say, a tool to help the player work and prepare. Never shall I be beaten by a machine. Never will a program be invented which surpasses human intelligence. And when I say intelligence, I also mean intuition and imagination.
In the end, Kasparov had to eat his own words.
He's eating his own words, and he's talking about how we work with machines in the future now as well. So 8 years later, he was beaten by Deep Blue, famously. And one thing people don't know is that it was the first time he was ever beaten by anything in a match. Yeah, he'd lost games before, but he'd never lost a match against anyone else. So the first thing to beat him was a machine. And he didn't take it well, it's fair to say. He accused his opponents of cheating. But, he's mellowed in his old age, and we might see him again. Then we go further. So not only can they now beat, your mobile phone could beat any player in the world, they play a kind of chess that is kind of unfathomable to the good amateur chess player. It's just, they can make moves and strategies which are just completely unfathomable. Well, not completely unfathomable, but just so daring, so exciting that it's quite shocking. So they call it now alien chess because no human would ever play like this. And then way stronger than humans now. I mean, just ridiculous. If you're into Go, there was a moment where AlphaGo beat the best human ever at Go, thought to be the best human ever at Go, and the machine played a move. It's known as move 37. It's gone down in as a bit of a meme in this sort of AI space, and that was completely a new idea that no one had ever had before. So I think that if we look at history like this, then it could be 20 years, it could be 200 years, I don't know, but I think you're going to get to the point where they're going to be better researchers than we are, and that will be very interesting. It's also interesting to note that chess is going through a boom, and a lot of people thought that when Kasparov lost, that was it for chess. No one would want to play chess anymore. But actually, the human side of chess is what we're really interested in, and it's great to be able to watch these amazing players make mistakes instantly, because you can see them play, and then you see the evaluation bar go up and down as the computer immediately spots their error, and that kind of makes it more exciting. Okay, so where are we? At the moment, LLMs can't write the essay for you, even if you're a capable historian. But they can save you a lot of time. There's still no substitute for independent study for now. And I said 20 years maybe would be my estimate that they get better than us, but it could be less. And now I've got to reduce by 1 to 19 years. And just quickly, I saw this morning coming in. Anthropic has an agent you can buy. I don't know much about it, but interestingly, it's $20, I assume, for an hour. I don't know what the unit is, but it compares this to the minimum wage. That's gonna come down and down and down and down and down. Probably similar to Moore's law. So it's going to be really interesting to see how much work like that. I'm nearly done. That's okay. How much work like that, sort of research work, can be done by machine. Paid for machine in the future, and what that's going to do to society, I really don't know. And at the end, we return to Douglas Adams, that great visionary. What's missing from this presentation was the middle bit, which is where he explains to the machine about all the history of the East India Tea Company and how bone china is the best thing to drink tea out of, and so on. So he basically feeds this model, the computer goes away and thinks about it and produces the perfect cup of tea. So I think that may be in the future for us studying humanities. Thank you.